Hey everybody, welcome back to the Weird Wild World of Wheeler. Got a bass fishing video for y'all. Well, sort of. My title might be a little deceptive. That's on me. My bad. What I'm here actually to talk about is a video that I found online by a YouTuber named Bass Fishing HQ. It's a fishing video that he did talking about a study done by a guy named Todd Driscoll and the Texas Wildlife and Fisheries on my favorite lake, Toledo Bend. So in this study, they basically took a bunch of radio tracked fish. First they caught the fish. They caught them in shallow and deep water. So they're gonna talk about that in the video. But they took these fish, put radio trackers on them, and study them for like this long period of time to see like their movements and what they're doing and how many of them die, how many of them don't die. They talk about mortality rates, natural catch and release. They talk about a bunch of things, and it's pretty crazy. But you'll see all that. I'm gonna play a few clips from the video and talk about it. I'm not gonna play the whole video. The whole video is like 20 minutes long, but it's still worth the watch. You should watch the entire video. I don't want to take it. I don't want to take too much away from that video, so I'm only going to play a few clips, talk about a few clips from it that I found really interesting. But you should watch the entire video. That's my take on it anyway. I think it could help if you fish Toledo Bend. Because like one of the things that I really want to point out that I talk about in the video, one of the things they talk about is a couple other studies that were done. They catch ratio studies, and it's like they did them in 2015 and like 2019. 2015, because y'all remember the lake was named best bass fishing lake in the country for like 2015 and 2016. Well, after that, boom! It's like the pressure got put on. People were coming fishing from all over the country, and it was kind of wild. It's good though. I mean, it's good for the lake to have all these people coming. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It just kind of changes things a little bit, with all that much pressure being put on them. But like it went from, in 2015, it was 1 to 1.5 fish caught per hour per person. That's, it's not counting good days and bad days. That's just average, which is pretty damn good. And then in 2019, they redid the study, and it was 0.7. Like it dropped 30 to 50%, depending on like errors and whatnot. Now some grass kills did happen, and a lot of pressure happened, but also the ways people fish have been kind of changing and doing different things, and the video talks about all that, and you should watch it. Anyway, let's get into it. Check it out. Alright, so here's the intro.
Bass fishing study may not only change how you go about bass fishing, but more than likely it will change where you start fishing. A recent study done on Toledo Bend Reservoir on the Texas-Louisiana border tells us that bass fishermen may never throw their bait in front of 41% of the bass population. In this video, I want to go over...
Yeah, 41%. So it's kind of the idea behind the study. So here's some more clips. So here's where he talks about the average catch rate.
Catch rate of bass at Toledo Bend was anywhere from 1 to 1.5 fish per hour per person. Which means if you and your buddy went fishing for an 8-hour day, on average you would catch 16 to 24 bass. Not only were catch rates high, but the amount of quality and trophy-sized fish being caught were also high.
The Lunker program.
However, after 2016, with the increase in fishing pressure on the 180,000-acre lake, catch rates were noticeably going down each and every year. In 2019, another catch rate study was conducted and found that the average catch rate per hour was down to 0.7 fish per hour per person, which is a drop of nearly 30 to 50% in...
So that's kind of what I talked about in the intro. He discusses that a little more here, and also talks about the interview he had with, the interview that Kid Smith had with Todd Driscoll. So he leaves a link for Ken Smith's interview on his page. I'm going to leave a link to this video that he did for Bass Fishing HQ on my description, so if y'all want to dig deeper and look at that interview, you can just go to his page and get it from there.
is known as Howland Bay, which is actually one of the most popular areas on
where
the
they did
lake
the
to
study.
fish. Although this may look small on a map, Howland is actually a little under 6 miles long and about 1.5 miles at its widest, and roughly 5,000 surface acres. In November 2019, roughly 30 bass were caught and underwent a small surgery to implant a small radio transmitter. Half of these fish were actually captured with rod and reel in deep water, 15 to 30 feet deep, and the other half were caught by electrofishing in shallow water. This was purposely done to make sure the study included both bass that tend to like shallow water as well as bass that liked deeper water. Unfortunately,
So yeah, that's kind of the idea behind it, So you have a variety of fish that you're tracking out of the 30 to get a good feel for it. Makes sense. It's all, pretty scientific, I imagine. Probably got some smart people working on this. So, here's another clip I wanted to play for y'all.
as a matter of fact, in this study, bass moved on average just 150 feet per day. This is like going from one end of your house and back. And to be honest, this number would be a lot lower if it weren't for a few fish that were extreme outliers. And we'll talk about those fish in just a minute. So many of us anglers are taught that bass have seasonal patterns where they go from deep main lake structure in the winter to the back of small pockets, creeks, and bays in the spring to spawn, and then back out to deep main lake structure again during the summer, only to return to the back of creeks during the fall to chase bait fish. And honestly, this is just not true. While some fish do move a lot, the majority of the...
That's kind of what I was talking about with like the mitts that we've all been taught over and over the years. And it might have been true at one time. Maybe some of these pressures changed that. I don't know. I'm definitely not an expert. I just like to fish, and I've done a lot of it, but definitely ain't no expert. But that's what I like about this video is kind of makes you use your brain a little bit. Maybe makes you think. Don't get stuck in your ways. I guess that's the best way to say it. Don't get stuck in your ways.
Then really have a home base that they linger around over the course of a year, maybe just making small movements to spawn and to feed. With that being said, I want to talk about how 5 specific bass move over the course.
Okay, I'm going to skip this part because this might be the most interesting part, but I don't want to spoil this guy's video. I want y'all to go watch it for yourselves. So here we go. Here's where he talks about another thing that kind of changes the idea of maybe something to try.
Place that everyone with electronics would typically ignore because of having 0 contour lines. She stayed on the stump on this flat for about 4 weeks, and then she moved back about 2 miles to her gator grass pocket. This time she stopped just short of the pocket and again made her home on a small piece of wood on another featureless flat. Now Sally continued this behavior much through the study and was never found within 100 yards of any major piece of structure that all of us bass fishermen look for on the water. This actually brings me to one of the biggest data points of this entire video, which is that 41% of the bass that were located in this study were found on know-nothing featureless flats, just 41%. Like Sal. Sure, some bass were found on traditional structure elements like points and ledges and channel swings and humps, but 41% were found on featureless flats.
So 59% were found on all the stuff we fish. But that means, there's another 41%. That's not quite half, but it's a lot of fish that are on just areas that you're probably not even trying to fish. And I think it's like you said, that's the point of the study, is to maybe change your ideas of like maybe sometimes if you see a lot of pressure hitting spots that you want to hit, back off and fish some areas that you wouldn't typically fish. You might work. You might catch one of them lunkers. You never know.
Now, many times when these bass were found, there was typically a small stump or piece of wood that the fish was sitting on this flat. But these pieces of cover would take an extreme amount of patience and time to find with your electronics. Now, fishing a featureless flat is not something that is necessarily new, but I really wonder how often do you
the guy who does a bass
on
fishing
those flats. The other question I have is the percentage of bass that are on these flats, has it always been this high, or is the never-ending fishing pressure and boats that are out there on the water pushing more and more fish to these areas where there's a lot less fishing pressure? Now, speaking of boats, this brings up a part of the study.
So this is another part he's about to talk about is when you're looking for fish with your electronics, something that they found by doing this study. So I'm going to go ahead and play this part too, and then I'll get out of it and we'll finish up.
That we have of boats. This brings up a part of the study that we have not yet talked about, which is how does the presence of boat and fishing pressure affect bass? During the study, there were 409 bass locations found. Every time a bass was found, the team would idle directly over the bass and do 2 figure eights to represent an angler looking for a school of fish with its graphs. Believe it or not, 42% of the time that they idled over these bass, the bass would leave the area they were sitting. This is super interesting to me because it begs another big question. Should we start finding bass in a different way? Maybe the days of idling over bass to locate them are slowly coming to an end. And the days of approaching bass with your trolling motor and panning around with your forward-facing sonar like Humminbird Mega Live is actually the best way. Now, it should be noted that the deeper the bass were located, the less often they moved. If the bass were deeper than 10 feet, they would leave 25% of the time that the researchers idled over them. If the bass were deeper than 20 feet, they would move 20% of the time. Regardless, if you are a tournament angler or you simply know where a school of bass is located, you may want to start being a lot more stealthy when approaching these fish. What might be even more interesting is that the presence of a lure also tends to scare away many fish. Now, when the team of biologists idled over the bass and they stayed, they would go ahead and fish for the bass. They would first start off by making 5 casts with a Texas rig and then recording the actions of the fish. It was observed that 31% of the time they started casting the Texas rig to these fish, they would move away or leave the area. Now, why exactly these fish moved away is sort of a question. Maybe it was the noise of the electronics or the presence of the boat, but the biologists said that their gut opinion was that the presence of the lure was what made these fish leave. When you put all this together, it really makes sense why sometimes you may idle over a group of 10 bass, and then by the time you spin your boat around and make a few casts, 3 of these bass have already left. And by the time you actually bring your bait through them, another 3 bass have already left. So of that group of 10 bass you originally saw on your electronics, you may actually only be fishing for 4. Now, I know that we have been talking a lot about fishing off the bank, but the biggest reason for this is because 78% of the fish that were tracked in this study spent the majority of their time in deeper water, even though half of them were originally caught shallow. Even in the springtime, when you would expect the majority of bass to be on the bank and spawning, only 43% of the bass were located on the bank. All in all, I feel like I have heard 100 times that there are no secrets in bass fishing anymore. But if you're willing to put in the work on some of these featureless flats, you may find yourself a little honey hole or even an 8.5 to 10 pound bass. Now,
that's kind of the point. Just trying something different. But yeah. So check the video out. That's just some of the video. The whole thing's most definitely worth watching. So yeah, there's my take on the video. I think you really should watch it. There's a few clips of it. Like I said, I didn't want to put too much stuff on there from the video because I think y'all should watch it. But I wanted to do a video talking about it, so here it is. I hope y'all enjoy it. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about at the end of the video, since now we're finished, I got this in the mail, and I didn't even know they still did this. It's a Bass Pro Shops catalog. Look how thick this thing is. All with stuff that I want. 2023 Master Catalog. I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate that they thought about me and sent it to me. And I probably will buy some stuff from them. But I was going to probably buy some stuff from them anyway. So, I mean, gives me something to read while I'm taking a crap, I guess. And chances are it's probably going to work out for them because I'm going to find some stuff I want and end up ordering it online. Or next time I'm passing through Denham Springs, stopping.
But yeah, I didn't even know they still sent these things out.
Hey everybody, Eden's got something she'd like to say.
Please subscribe
And
and
like the video.
like the video.
Let's try. You want to try again?
No, it's good.
Okay, she says it's good. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's good. Yeah. So please like, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.